So then she says $150 and
Oh,
I
thank
took some
you.
cash. Oh, we don't take cash anymore. Sorry. And she hands me the credit card back and I said, did you get the baggage? I should hand it back to her. I was like, oh my God. So when I was all done, I was like, I hope you have a wonderful day. But did you know you don't have to take your shoes off anymore?
Oh, that's gross.
Oh. This does not. There it is. Call to order the work session on Monday, July 28th at 5:30 PM. Please rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We have to do roll call this.
Yeah.
Roll call, please, Jenny.
Mayor Vogel,
Here.
Councilmembers Mulebauer,
Here.
Faunus,
Here.
Udvig,
Here.
Robinson,
Here. Darcy, you're up.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Tonight's work session, we'll be discussing the 2026 levy and the water and sewer rates. So I wanted to start with the general levy. So the general levy is more than just the general operating fund. It is also our capital, the capital equipment, building. Sorry. Street improvements, parks. We've added on a new one for the tax abatement for Vista Prairie, which was approved back in 2024. This is a way that, we have to refund them their property taxes that they pay up to $200,000 a year for 10 years. The max over those 10 years is $1,975,000. So we put in 50,000 this year because they're not fully built. Their value isn't completely on. And Nick from Ellers had given me an estimate to put this in there. So we will be turning around and having to pay Vista Prairie back their city taxes. The other thing that we are adding new is the stormwater. Council gave direction on their April 28th, 2025 work session to move the stormwater from a fee-based to a levy. So we've added $300,000 in there for that, and that will then just be spread in the levy instead of the individuals getting their stormwater invoice. One thing to note was during that last 5-year plan overall plan that we did, it was scheduled to go up. And so next year's amount would be $106. So there would have been an increase in there. The other part of the levy is the debt service levies. Those are, we have two out there. There's one, the 2017, that's for the police and public works. These are all set up, the levies are scheduled with when we sell the bonds. The 2017 is for the police public works building. That is scheduled to have a levy of $310,000, and that one is getting paid off in, let me see, 2035. Okay? The other one, the 2023, which has got a levy of $790,000, is for this building. That one is paid off in 2048.
Do you want us to ask questions as we go along?
If you have a question, let me know.
Because my only question, as we were just talking about previously here, is I believe Joe's probably correct on this, that even if we were in the position, we cannot pay down these capital bonds. We cannot pay them. Let's just say if somehow the city came flush with money and we wanted to start paying off, so we wouldn't have to pay as much interest or make an extra payment to them. Can we do
Like a
that?
mortgage, you can't pay the principal down.
Yeah, no, we can't do that. What happens is there is times that you can refund it. You could do an advanced refunding. They'll come across and they'll say, this is the interest rate, this is what you could refund it at, and it has to make sense. In the end, they go through a calculation, but no, we can't go, hey, we want to make an extra payment now and write down our principal. In the bond documents, it tells us when we could refund it, when we could call the bonds and all of that. But like I say, I think the term is advanced refunding. There's a call date in the future. We refund it now, but then we hold that money and pay the bond off when it's callable in the future. But right now, and Nick is always watching any of our bonds and telling us if there's ever an opportunity to refund anything.
Refinance too, to get savings on interest. Right?
Yep. And we did that. That was the 2017, that was a refund. So, and they put several different bonds together on that one. I think, yeah.
Thanks.
Okay.
Yep.
So then in total, this page will show you that all of those together, the different levies are there. Our tax increase next year is gonna go up $995,000, but remove that 300, it'd be 665. And some of those are, like I say, we have an increase in the capital equipment that when we go through the capital equipment, we budgeted an increase of, $50,000 a year. The parks, we've budgeted an increase of $50,000 a year in there when we're trying to pay what we want to pay. The street improvements going up $120,000 a year. So if you change any of those levies, then we have to go back and look at all of those expenses that were, saved in those funds. And you would have to move some stuff backwards, or else sell another bond. Okay?
So I'm gonna pick on streets for 1 second, because I saw that $120,000 a year increase year to year. That number is created by, it's obviously more than inflation, I'm guessing. Where do we come up with $120,000 a year increase?
So, years ago, when we did start the street fund, we were, hey, do we want to sell a bond every year? And we did, because then that takes interest, that takes everything. So we said, can we cash flow it? Because we had very little debt service for our streets and stuff. And so we took, they made a plan of all the streets and started trying to really go through and say what streets needed to be replaced when, and got numbers. Then to cash flow it, I just started playing with the numbers like, hey, if we put in 50,000 this year and add this and stuff, and we came down to the 120. And it's worked. We've gone since what year did we start that? Probably 16 or I want to say 15 even.
I think Paul started working on it then, Fisher, and then He actually came up with the plan. I got the book at home.
Yeah.
I think I want to say like 17 or 18.
We started the fund with a big transfer from the general fund. We put in some capital there, I think it was like over $1 million. And we have, like I say, we're in a really good position as we're not selling those bonds for our street improvements.
One on the same topic, if I could chime in quick, it was a question I had, and I think I've asked before, and I don't know if we really have a number, obviously, with costs that fluctuate so much, I don't know if we can come up with that, but is there a number that we say, okay, we're putting $1 million or, we're putting $500,000 into this every year? Are we kind of leveling it off, or we're at, what do you call it with the water? You're not giving relief, but you're balancing it, so to speak, to where you're leveling off and saying, okay, this is good for a while now anyway.
I think we'll get to that point eventually. Right now, we're still kind of infancy stages of this. They're refining the plan, and I think they did some revisions on it even this year.
Your
And
material they're insane too, they keep
Yeah.
fluctuating like every.
so we are scheduled for several years out to continue that 120 right now increase. And like I said, if you take out that new one, which was a fee base, the stormwater, that would bring it down to $695,000, which would be 11% increase on the levy over last year,
That was my
which
next
is
question.
more in line. I did an average of 2021 to 2025, and our average has been 10.27, just trying to keep up and a big thing is the capital. And general operating is in there too, but, okay. Any questions on that?
I have a question, Darcy, on that. I know I kind of like treat these as two different things. The sewer and water is one major discussion.
Mhm.
The levy's another, I know, but they're yet intertwined. What was the normal expenses if we went status quo, sent out bills again this year for $105 or whatever? How much money would be in that pot as opposed to 300,000 we're now allowing for it in this other new pot? That makes sense with expenses of postage and all the admin BS that you have to put into it. If everybody sent their checks in on time and we were reassessed,
We were
Per parcel type of thing.
Right.
We were budgeting $230,000 in 25.
so now we're budgeting $300,000.
Yeah, but that plan had called for increases each year for like 5 years. And we came up with and decided not to do the increase for 25. But looking at all the expenses coming out of there, we would need to go up to 106.
Okay, which would more or less equated to 300
Mhm.
and approximate.
Yep.
Okay. That's all I had for now. Thank you.
Okay.
Quick question on that topic as well. So we come up with a 310,000, so it's based on your home valuation? That you pay your percentage of that, like how do you come up with that? How do you spread that across? the city?
Well, now it's just gonna be spread as in the tax rate. So yes, your tax capacity value is going, and that is generated. First of all, you start out with your market value, and if you qualify, you get some market value, that exclusion, exemption, whatever they call it now. And then you come down to, that's your taxable market value. That's taken times a percentage to come down to your tax capacity. The tax capacity is taken times the tax rate to get your city taxes.
Right,
And then the county taxes and
then the
stuff like that.
percentage of your city taxes determined, like, the city takes in overall 6 million. I pay 0.3% of that, so therefore I'm paying 0.3% of the total we need to collect for stormwater type of thing. Does that make sense? Those numbers are obviously made up. But
Yeah, so moving that to taxes, an individual home might pay less, you can associate less for a lesser value house than a higher value house. Yes,
But currently, they're all the same price.
yes, every single parcel pays exactly the same amount.
Whether you're on city sewer, water or not.
Right.
Well, stormwater has nothing to do with.
Mhm.
Well, a lot of people don't seem to understand it.
Can I jump in on another thing? Then it says Darcy on page 3 on paragraph 5 says, please note that the county has yet to send fiscal disparity amounts, tax capacity amounts, and joint value amounts. Those are all estimates in the calculation of this tax rate. What does that mean to the numbers that we're looking at now?
Okay, I'm gonna go to my next screen.
All right. That's all right.
You read my mind. So, and you've seen this when we do our truth in taxation. So the total levy is $7,180,000. And there's a fiscal disparities amount that is taken off there. That is the amount we get from fiscal disparities. That's the metro area. They way back in the 70s, I'd have to look at that again, but all commercial and industrial new value, 40% goes into this pot, and that generates a tax revenue, and that's spread to all the different entities in the 7-county metro area. Okay? That's the amount that I haven't gotten. I won't get those amounts from the county till the end of August. But they'll tell me what we're gonna get from fiscal disparities and what we have to put in. So if
Because
you
1.1
look,
million could change.
yes,
And
that
then
could change.
64%.
Yep,
But you're pretty conservative on your guesses.
yep, if you look, it's just a little bit more than what we got in 2025. I try, yeah. The tax capacity is another one. I haven't gotten the all of those numbers. I don't know the market values. I don't know the taxable values. Right now, the county is still working on them. Like I say, they get them to me the end of August. And even when they give them to me in August, they still will change all the way up until they do taxes next year. Not huge amounts, but they can change.
Make sure you're working with really good numbers though.
So there, like on this illustration, you take your total levy, you take the amount that you're gonna get from fiscal disparities, you subtract that and come down to your spreadable levy. Then you take your tax capacity amount and you have to add in your contributions to fiscal disparities. And then this joint value that the county gives us. And so then you come up with your net tax capacity. And so then you divide the spreadable levy by the net tax capacity, and that's your tax rate. And so that 64.153 would be what you would take times your tax capacity to figure out what your city taxes are gonna be. Okay? So more to come on that I'll have better numbers in September. So, any questions?
I have another one. That tax capacity, then say it goes down. To me, property taxes always had a lead lag situation. Right now, you hear some of the major economists say that or real estate people say that houses are overvalued and they're basing it on current incomes, and incomes are up. Again, there's the average house now is 400 some thousand. What if the tax capacity drops down to 9 million or 8.7 million? So that once the valuation is now down, what does that do for cities like us that are counting on some of these approximate numbers to?
Well, that would just change the tax rate, but if like a couple of years ago, remember they did almost all these properties got a huge increase in their market value and their taxable market value. It doesn't really do anything to your taxes, because if everybody's going at the same rate up, it's just being spread over a bigger pot. It might look different, but we get the same amount of money. We can only get, like on this here, the total levy, we can only get the $7,180,000. No matter what market value we have out there. That's what we tell the county, that's the max we can get.
But then the county just raises their formula on what they need to keep production rolling. And say your house drops by $40,000, they're gonna raise their tax percentage X amount to still compensate. Nobody's gonna roll backwards, I guess is what I'm saying.
If you had a house that all of a sudden dropped, you would see a drop in your taxes.
But it
But
might
if
drop everyone.
everybody is going down, you know, say they revalue
Mhm.
a lot of homes, you're not gonna see a huge difference because it's just spread. If everybody went down the same percentage, it's not gonna affect
That's-
your individual taxes.
But yeah, police, fire, building, energy, those costs still go up.
Yep.
The county will just reconfigure what they need.
I think that's part of the reason too, though, you wanna be with that 50% over. At the general levy or whatever, you got the reserves, that's where they want that reserve money too, is I think for those types of situations.
Well, that is because the state wants you to be at 50% for the fact that we don't get our first tax payment until July. So they're trying to tell you, you need enough cash to get from the first of the year to July
Right.
without getting your major revenue source. And on top of it, LGA doesn't come in until July. So our major revenue comes in July.
And that LG, we're not even sure what next year, that's an unknown as well, right?
It actually, went up a little bit. They were talking about cutting it and in the final bills, it was not cut. But our increase is not a huge increase.
Alright.
So, but we don't get any more money. If your value of your house goes up, we don't get any more money than what we levy. So if somebody says, well, my value went up, you're getting more money, that isn't what generates us getting more money. It's what you guys decide the levy is gonna be, is how we generate more money.
Alright.
So the next sheet that I have is I'm trying to show you what this means for a house. Now, I don't think homes very rarely stay exactly the same amount. You get your, what is that called in March? Now it's escaping me. The value of your house in like April or February, March. And it tells you what your value of your house is gonna be for the next year. And you can go to the county and kind of fight it if you think it's not right and stuff. So, but they always are changing, so this spreadsheet tries to show you if your value is staying exactly the same, what your taxes are doing for city taxes. So like if you look across at say, let's go 250. I'm saying that a home valued at 250, their city taxes in 25 would be $1,217.85. And in 2026, that would go up to $1,449.54. City taxes only. But that's probably not gonna be the case because their value is gonna change some. And so that is an increase of $231, but if you took that 106 off that they're not paying, then you're down to what, 130, 120, that their taxes are going up in next year.
So on that 250 home there, I recognize, like you say, all this is, what is that percentage? Sorry, what's that percentage increase from 2025, 2026 on the 250,000? What's the 231.69 would be the annual difference. What is it? What percentage is that of increase? No, I don't think it is.
$250 would be 10% of the 250,000. So about 9 something. That was the new math they're teaching. It's a little bit now based.
You gotta
Oh, about
The problem is
19%.
Your value always changes every year.
So that would
it's
be
like you can't
for that
look
250,000
across the
home,
board.
it's roughly a 19%
And then they got
increase in their
20,000
city
jumps.
tax section of their taxes.
Yes.
Oh,
And of that
What
19%,
the hell do you do there, right?
of that
Well, that makes
19%, roughly how much of that, I know that you're gonna have to take like out $100. What's the MS4 portion of that?
That would be 106. If we were still billing a fee, they would be paying $106.
So
next
instead,
year.
just humor me here. So instead of the 231.69 or whatever, we could take $100 off that. You're saying it'd be $131.69. And then what is that percentage of increase if we took out the MS4?
10%.
Okay, thank you.
So, I want to stop there. Any more questions? I need direction from you if you still want to continue with that, stormwater going over to taxes. And then this is all gonna come back to you in September. We have to set the preliminary levy in September by the end of the month. And then that would generate those truth and taxation notices that you get in November. And then we'd have the December meeting where you would set the final levy.
So the $106, I know we voted for it, but for it to be in here, but is there a way for it to be on a separate line? So it doesn't, the percentage of increase doesn't look so much? And then it would be the same for everybody like it is currently? No.
See, because we only have two things that we can do is the general operating or general levy and the debt service levies. All of those are general levy. The stormwater, the tax abatement, the capital equipment, and our general, what we consider our general fund levy. That all at this county level is one amount. It's just how we divide it up. So there's no separate lines. And we had asked years ago when we first started the stormwater to just put an amount on your taxes. You know, there's a hazardous or a hazardous waste or what, I don't know what it is. And we asked, you know, can we just charge each property the $60 when we started? We don't have the ability to do that. The state has not authorized us to do that. What we have the ability to do is to have an invoice, have it unpaid, and then we can special assess the property. So.
Because when we voted for it, I didn't imagine that it was gonna be different for every property owner. Now, it kind of makes sense to me that it's the same for every property manager or property owner. So I guess when we voted, I didn't realize it was gonna change to a percentage of your property value.
Yep.
If a resident asks me this, I'll probably get a tumor, but I wanna ask you this to see if it's actually possible to answer, which I'm sure it is some way somehow. We're taking the total amount we need in stormwater and, somebody comes up to me and says, my home's worth $360,000. How much am I paying for stormwater now? Or Mr. Jones shows up and says, I have this many acres and my property's worth whatever it is. Is there a way to know or a formula of some sort that? I mean, I would probably tell them to call Darcy because she could probably help you there, but I'm just curious as far as those kind of questions, because we're gonna get those, I think, if first we're gonna be accused of hiding it in the taxes, because that's gonna happen. And then if we say, well, this helps to save whatever, and this is why we did it, explain it to them, they're gonna say, well, how much am I paying now than what I would pay otherwise? So is there something we could formula or something that you could send out
Well, wouldn't we take the
to me,
total?
at least to where I can answer it if it's asked?
Wouldn't we take the?
Does that make sense? Sorry.
Yeah, no, I mean, when we take the total value of all the properties in St. Francis, I'm sure that's easy to find. And divide it by the $330,000 and
That's
get a
just the increase
percentage.
though, right? The 310 is just the increase. Not the total amount going to MS4, right?
I would say what we could do is take the 300,000. You wouldn't put any of your fiscal disparities and stuff towards that. You would just take the 300,000, divide it. So that would be your spreadable levy. And then divide that, go through the formula and get your tax, your net tax capacity. And you could come up with what you say is that percentage. Yes, and then they could take it times their tax capacity. So yes, I could.
Okay.
Barring not putting any money,
could.
barring and not putting any of your fiscal disparities contributions towards that 300,000, just saying that is all going to our other rest of your levy, if that makes sense.
I'll be over here trying to pound the square in the circle.
But you're kind of going to my point that we had talked about earlier.
Well, I mean,
If we could come up with some sort of calculator, that's
Right.
what I've asked to do, that tells me how much am I paying roughly for MS4? How much am I paying for police? How much am I paying for fire?
Right, and you might not get, like I say, exact, but if you can at least get some
Correct.
sort of close, because you are going to get people again now, even though they were pissed off every time they got the single file deal. For the single mailer, they're going to be mad now that you're hiding it, even though we're not. It's kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't. You gotta be ready for those things, and you wanna be ready for those questions when they come up. Well, how much am I paying now? Because there's supposed to be an increase and you'll get one or two maybe, but people are going to ask that, and I'd like to be able to answer it if it's possible, but if it's some sort of crazy.
So
I've never been to
roughly,
calculus.
it would be, you could attribute, you would take the tax capacity times of the house times 0.031, and you could get an approximate amount.
For which line item? For
Pie.
the,
For
for
the
the
stormwater.
We
stormwater.
just do pie.
So,
You know what your answer is here, don't you? It's Darcy's phone number and Darcy's name. Sorry, Darcy.
Well, I'd like to so strongly suggest.
Yep.
Something of this magnitude, and it is a milestone for us, if we go down this road, and we haven't even talked about the new water rates, maybe. To actually have an open house or a town meeting where we're here, we were voted here to do a job. We can invite the people, put one of the signs out in the corner of our building, one of the thing on wheels with big bold letters. We'll give them the opportunity to see exactly what we're seeing here. Because we're not doing any of this in any secret stuff, but like everyone said,
They
people are
could
gonna
be
be.
here now too, if they wanted to.
There'll be pitchforks
That's part of the
and
problem.
torches, yeah, but they don't know the magnitude of, like Mike is abreast of the problem or the situation. This gentleman's abreast of the situation. Some people, they're just busy, but if we let them know, again, we had what, Kate, we had 29 people come to our open house when we talked about City Hall. We did our best, and we really, really tried, and but I think this is one of those things where full-blown transparency, we're here to answer the question, and there'll be people mad, and they'll be yelling, and some disgruntlement and stuff, but at least they're seeing exactly what we see and why we're doing what we are intending to do, and why the changes are being made, and, maybe there'll be time for some rebuttal. I don't know how you control a herd of cats like that, but just a thought, but I think we ought to give the public an opportunity. Again, we're a town of 8,500, 1,700 dwellings, et cetera, et cetera. If we get 100 people to show up, at least we tried. And then they can never say, we've never known it. What is
Well, they can, they
this?
will. I'm just saying,
Oh, I know
I
they will.
hate to be ugly like that, and I hate to sound cynical. The public, we are here to serve them, and I don't fault anybody for trying, we've been doing, I think we've been, ever since, Feldman and I got elected, I think, and Bauer back then even, I think we tried, and we have been trying, and every council since then, I think, has done our best to try to get involvement. We begged for involvement, depending on the topic or the emotions at the time. 47 was a hot button issue, got hit. A lot of people participated in some of that stuff. But it did die off too, and the politicians disappeared at the state level. And I think too, it's a lot of those things that it slowly fades. And until you get that bill in the mail, people don't realize the impact that things are gonna have, and then they wanna accuse you of being underhanded. And it's really like, it's your priorities of whether or not you wanna hear these things. And I get what you're saying, Kevin. I'm not against the town hall. If you wanna try more, I'll encourage it. I just don't have a lot of faith, unfortunately, in the public.
I don't either, but you can't quit trying.
That's true.
I don't have much faith in.
I'm just saying they could be here, right now, but they're not, and
I know.
that's because priorities, right? They're not, nobody's paying attention, unfortunately, it's sad, and it bothers the hell out of me, because that's why we're here, but it's hard to serve people that don't tell you what they want either, or how you
Yeah.
can better serve them, and then they're mad at you when you do something they don't want, and it's like, how are we supposed to know without communication? We're out there on 19 nights, we're out there with these things trying to get to talk to people and surveys and everything. So it's not for a lack of trying on the city's part. I just want to kind of note that, because I think we do try. I think staff does a good job reaching out. I think at all our public events, it is being tried still. So it's not, and like you say, I don't disagree with you that you can't just give up, but I just don't have a lot of faith in the result, and I hope the public proves me wrong. I really do. And I would love to see that, so.
I just don't want to see it used against the city, not us, but
Right.
used against the city, because it will. I
It will
mean,
be
Mike
ugly,
is here
right?
because he saw 25% he wants. His hat spins around on his head because he sees that. I saw it when I see it, and where I'm trying to circumvent some of that stuff as best we can. And then you say, go to the tape. Go to,
Right.
we got it on tape, come to the meeting, and then we'll pan the audience, how many people showed up? Oh, 100. 100 out of how many people that live here, so.
Right.
But no, I agree with it.
Well,
everything you
I don't
said.
fault you for trying, like I say, I'd support that 100% if you wanna do a town hall, or I'm not real positive on that we're gonna have a great outcome. Again, I pray they prove me wrong. I really do.
Just want to say again, though, you are gonna have a meeting in September that you're gonna talk about this. And then you're gonna turn around, they're gonna get their notices, and then you'll talk about it again, first meeting in December.
Good question. That's a
Newsletter?
And then
I mean, I think we need to plaster that on every page, be like, this is what's.
we've discussed
Seriously, like,
September and December we'll have.
yes,
So we could.
September.
we're gonna do newsletters and we wanna revamp what we have even on like a page in the webpage.
A quick question, Kevin, is what, as far as the town hall, when you say you want. Everything we're talking about tonight, like here's the budget.
Well, these are two big deals. The sewer water rates are gonna go up.
Yeah.
And then stormwater is changing. Those are really big milestones, not to be any comparison to what the previous event that caused a lot of people to come out. But this is a big deal, and it'll be a bigger deal if we don't say enough about it. And I put my 1 month council salary to pay for a sign on the corner of our lot with those orange letters on there, bigger than the smoke shop's got, and say, this is what we got going on. But, and again, I don't know how we deal with it, how you herd cats, and the mayor's gotta be here with a plate of, suit of armor and Kevlar on, or I don't know how that's all gonna go down, but.
You get some training.
And I might be a little facetious, I'm exaggerating somewhat, but we need to hit them, and tell them. And if they don't come, then they just didn't come. I mean, I know I'm asking a lot of the staff and us, when the Centennials come.
Question to me is, let's just say we put a front page on the September newsletter, front page, blah, 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 and here's the date of the next meeting where we'll be discussing it.
Yeah.
I mean, is that
And
It's a
we
good
can
start.
let it out at night to unite too, and have a
Correct.
big thing saying,
Yeah.
come to this meeting, this is.
Because this is my
Don't miss
criticism,
this one.
this is my criticism as a citizen before, you've heard me up here.
Yeah.
When I talked about this
And you said
particular,
we never talked about it, but yet we had.
you had, however, no, I know,
I still love you.
I love you too. However, the newsletter, our newsletter, I challenge you to show me one article in the newsletter about the new City Hall fire station.
In
It
the
ne-
previous year.
In the previous years, that never happened. And we're calling it, I know it's not technically a newsletter, but that's what it says, newsletter. Show me
And I would agree with you.
one word about it in the
That's why I'm trying to
newsletter.
turn a new leaf.
I agree.
As a
Yep.
city, we should turn a new leaf and be better at communication.
So I'm just thinking out loud, just like you are right now. I'm saying this, three things should be on the front page of the newsletter in September. And it should be water sewer rates and this MS4 change should be the front page, front.
And
and center.
I will pay for a sign to go on the corner of where as close as the county will let us put it at. I'll pay 1 month salary to put it on to pay for that sign.
One
Call
month
them
How do we
salary.
legally do that? Just saying, you might wanna run that by David.
I could, there's a sandwich sign like the Subway guys.
You could do that. That's on you.
I'll pay my salary to see you do that there, Captain. All right, there you go.
See signs paid for.
But in all seriousness, I mean, I think that the start is the September newsletter. It's got to be right on the front page, not buried deep in the newsletter. And it has to be something like major changes to
How this calculated. and
sewer, water
Yeah.
and MS4 rates. I don't
We
know how
want to
you
hear from
word
you.
it.
Yep.
Yep.
Well, yeah, I agree with Kevin with, a town hall or something. And there's got to be a calculation way to figure it out based on all the what your property value is. All of those steps in there, how much you paying for fire and how much you paying for police and how much you're paying for, the sewer that we're talking about, the stormwater that we're talking, there's got to be a way to figure that out. So I think we need to,
Page
I
five.
like what Kevin's doing. Page five, is it on page five?
Police. Cost that.
No, but
much.
you have to then
Go into
compare it to
percentages?
their property value.
And,
Oh.
and I do that at the truth in taxation.
Oh, okay.
I go through what a median valued home is paying
Okay.
for the different,
Services.
services. Yeah.
Well, and my question too is this 16% increase or 11%, depending on how you look at it. How does that compare to other cities in Anoka County?
I know when I went to
County's insane right now this year. They're-
meeting earlier, oh, no, they didn't talk about levies. No, they haven't, I haven't really seen very much information on levy increases. What I had heard about was more like, wage increases.
I thought when we got something in the mail, and I don't remember if it's the tax form or the estimated tax, it compared with different
Other
cities.
cities, and I've seen it, I think
I
it
don't
was,
remember what form that.
I think maybe
Okay,
Oak
right.
Grove is sending it out. I think they sent that out a lot, a couple of mayors.
I don't
There's
remember
something
if
county
the
too
truth
that
in
showed you.
taxation
Yeah,
notice says
and it was-
something on the back.
Yeah, there's something there.
I know
that
one
can-
year they had a different format that I would say there wasn't a finance director that really liked it because it didn't give you the whole story.
Mm.
It didn't tell you things and it generated like some other questions that they could have easily answered on that.
Why is it going up or what's the cost, the highest cost?
I think
But I
it's-
quick, and don't hold it me exactly to it, but a $250,000 house would probably pay next year $71 for the stormwater. Like I say, it's based on your value and some of
Saving a
your
buck.
value is on lower homes is excluded. So,
But I would just argue, and that's why we got here with the MS4. I would argue it's the same with police. If you're in a more expensive home and you're a less expensive home, you're paying less for police. You're
Mhm.
paying less for fire.
Yeah.
It applies to, it isn't just the
Ev-
stormwater, it
every
applies to
category.
every category. Yes.
Don't drive faster to the one.
I don't know, ask Todd that one.
Hey,
But I mean, I think we have to give Darcy at least a general feel about whether to continue with the MS4 as she's got it on here or not. So are we, I know it was mixed reaction last time. I'm still in favor of keeping the MS4 as you got it proposed here. I don't know how the rest of the council feels here.
I mean, so if you put it on the tax levy, that means we don't have to generate 3,000 statements. We don't have to take in payments for. And
all the
we get
payments.
like probably 60-70% of them to pay. Then we special assess a bunch. We don't have, that means we don't go through that whole process. We just put it to the levy and
Be done.
Give an
Yeah.
estimated cost savings though. Sorry, I should have.
Well,
called you before the
postage is
meeting.
like 73 cents now.
Yeah.
Crazy.
And we pay somebody to print them and stuff them. I wanna say that's, they're 3,000, probably 3,000 or more in the spring and then another couple thousand in the fall to do the special assessment notices.
And I agree with, saving the cost, saving the staff, the headache of dealing with each individual that's mad about getting an individual card. I think that's ridiculous because it's. Either way, these stormwater improvements have to be done and somebody has to pay for them at some point, right? But people don't seem to understand that. They see the word water, they say our water is too expensive already, and they link the two, which.
Or I don't have
completely-
water. Mhm.
Yeah, they're completely unrelated. And I think too, it's, you're not hiding it. You're making it easier for the city to apply it and actually saving people money in theory. Because you're not incurring all those extra costs of staff time to deal with it, printing the notices and all that. So it's one of those things, but I just want council to be prepared and understand that you are gonna get those questions. You are gonna get probably accused of hiding it in the taxes now because the reason we did it individually was to be transparent. And it doesn't do anything for you, unfortunately, and we're not hiding it, but it's going to be viewed as that or perceived as that by some people that are mad about it or wondering where it went. And then the individuals that watch those things that complain every year about the $72 or 60 whatever dollars are going to wonder, what am I paying now? And some of those people are not gonna be happy because they have large plots of land and expensive properties and they're gonna be paying more. So those questions are gonna come up, and Darcy, I hope you're ready for those phone calls too, because we're probably gonna end up having to direct them to you too, so,
Well, and
just
then,
saying.
and maybe, you know, you learned this before I was on, but how do businesses pay for this and like apartment buildings and everything? Do they, like, it's all just based on valuation
Yep.
of the property, not of the business?
And commercial and industrial is a different beast, you know, because they don't have, they have different calculations on theirs, and, actually, like, several years ago, when they put in this amount that, you know, that you could exclude, well, what that did was it pushed those dollars over onto commercial industrial. Because commercial and industrial didn't get that. So they picked up that tab. Their taxes went up.
Mm.
Was that a year or 2 years ago, when Mark was in the audience, the business owners, I think, too.
The exclusion has been in for
Last year.
several years, but
Or something
something a couple years
ago.
ago, I think that they just revalued commercial and industrial a couple of years ago. And had a lot of increases. And I haven't seen, like I say, I haven't seen what the revalued properties are yet. That number is yet to come.
I got a question. Kate, maybe you can answer this, maybe not. What's this do to, will it stifle commercial interest in St. Francis? Bob King was paying $60 for whatever parcel, but Bob King has a lot of property. Other people have some larger properties. Mr. Jones has some properties. Could it stifle, I mean, it's kind of a guessing by golly, but if I'm thinking about Vista Prairie, what is their stormwater percentage gonna be, even though they get a tax abatement?
You
They
know,
still have an obligation.
yeah, mayor and council, so it's interesting with economic development and taxes. You know, Anoka County for years has held back property taxes with the attempt to attract new businesses. They've used that as part of their marketing. However, we've watched a lot of businesses go to, you know, Dakota County, for example, where you've got Shutterfly and you've got all these large industries that have actually gone to the more expensive counties or same or similar counties. So in the greater scheme of the county, we've never seen somebody go, I'm gonna come to Anoka County because the taxes are less. When you look at development, even within Anoka County, you know, a lot of our development is Coon Rapids, Columbia Heights, Blaine, Fridley, and it's in that corridor. Businesses aren't looking for great taxes. They're looking for transportation. They're looking for a workforce. I think we're still gonna get the businesses we're going to get. Taxes get used a lot on the table, but it's really not as important when somebody is trying to figure out if we had really low taxes, but we don't have a workforce, they're still not going to come. So it plays a part, but it is not a strong part in a lot of the economic development efforts.
And location's so important.
I think state too is probably the bigger driver of that, when they give like tax breaks, like the film industry, now they all go to Atlanta instead of Hollywood, they get breaks there. Markets like that, or when Amazon's gonna build their, whatever, they're gonna look for certain areas where they can get breaks like that, and that's usually done at the state level, I think, isn't it?
Yes.
Any other general questions? Just want to do you just want to quick go down? I mean, it's not an official vote, but just give a consensus vote to Darcy on two things. One is the MS4 and second, the overall proposal as she's presenting it here.
I just have one more question, and it's kind of trivial, but I still want to ask it, is the budget from 2025 to 2026, I noticed how like the city council budget went up, and I don't understand that. And then there's, everything kind of goes up, which I get some of it, like administration, you got full increases, things like that, hiring more people that we didn't have necessarily on last year's budget, things like that, but then city council, why would that change?
I think there was a lot of there's some computer stuff that is associated with you, the newsletter, all of that,
Okay,
that is going up. You haven't voted in a salary increase for yourself for
Right.
a long time, so that's not generating it, but I remember just looking at what's been charged to you for newsletter
Okay.
and computer consulting, that's going up.
oh, that makes sense. I guess MS4 on the tax rolls, we can try that. I don't have an issue with that. I think it's, I do want to kind of go on record. whoever watches these things, that, I do believe, Mark, your intentions are honorable and they're not trying to hide anything. Just be prepared, because we are gonna get some people that say that.
Fair enough. And overall, you're okay, comfortable with the
Overall,
overall?
it's, yeah, it's, I think staff's always done a good job with the budget, preparing for it. It's nothing we ever like to see is the increases, but it happens every year, and it's unfortunately what we need to deal with, and it's, I think we're on, I don't think you can cut anything. I don't think there's anything that I can argue to say, we wanna do this or do that to save so much to where it's gonna save money that isn't necessary. So I would have to go with what you have here.
May I make one? I mean, going through calculations, even if you would cut $100,000, it doesn't do a lot to an individual's. You really have to cut to
Right.
see a,
We talked about
Decrease
using
in
reserves
taxes.
last year, and if you use, what, $200,000 in reserve, it might have saved somebody $10 in a year. Like, it's really nothing, which is crazy, because, oh, it's $10 here, it's $10 there, and that stuff does add up. But at the same time, like she said, we tried to cut, I think it was 200,000, and it ended up being like roughly $10 a year for people, which is like, what, $1 a month you're gonna save people? Yeah, I don't have an issue with this.
Amy?
I just had a couple numbers circled here. On page 4, intergovernmental, that's a pretty big number in there. What does that mean? 832,000.
oh, that is our LGA and any grants, any money that would come from the state. So the big one is LGA. That's the biggest part of that.
Okay.
Yep.
And then, on page 5, community development, it says 333,000. Is community development building. What does that mean?
No,
What's in part of
building is underneath it, in total, building and the community development, like, director is the same classification, but we have two different departments. So we have a community development and we have a building.
that? Okay.
So, yep.
That's all I circled, except one more, this on page 2. Weirdly, in 2020, we had $2,032 for TIF, but we didn't have anything any other year. I thought that was weird.
That's something to do with Charlie, where we had, the only one I remember.
Yeah, we had started. We had started something.
We approved a TIF at one point and it never got out the ground, but there might have been some expense or something maybe.
And
Okay.
that there is like levy amounts that was on the,
For the property.
tax rolls. Yes. And yes, we did have that TIF district and they had started it and we had to cancel it because it didn't go through.
And so those.
There was a value in there for 1 year.
Oh, okay.
So-
So what was the one was something else?
It wasn't the
Okay.
Charlie.
That's the only one I remembered.
Okay. Those were all my questions. I guess I am on board with both questions. I wish that the stormwater could be on a separate line. And I wish it could be the same for every property. But it can't. So I am on.
Yellow cards.
We could mail out cards, but, so I wish, that's kind of how I envisioned it, but I didn't realize that wasn't possible. My only other comment is, I know everything, all expenses everywhere just keeps going up and up and up for us, for, the general public, just everywhere. And I just would like to see one of these numbers go down at some point, because I just don't like putting a number in there just because, oh, it's gonna go up, and then, oh, if we don't use it, and then you get into that year, oh, if we don't use it, we lose it. So I don't know, I just think that it would have been good if we could find somewhere to kind of sharpen our pencil with.
Get the
A little
goal,
bit.
that'll help spread them.
Mhm.
Development.
Anything else?
No,
Sarah?
Well, I'm on board with both. Again, I know we're gonna get the calls. We're gonna hear from people. That's part of our job. So, I'd like to see us really push for something to get people to come, but again, we're gonna probably get a handful that show up whenever there's something big going on and yeah, increases are never fun, but we have to do to keep us going.
Kevin?
When we say that some people are agreeing to both, we're still talking about MS4 only, we're still gonna talk about sewer and water?
Yeah.
Sewer water is a whole separate conversation.
Okay, cool. Question, community development, what entails 398,000? What's the 398 cover? What's it for?
Well, it'd be the salaries for the community development director and the community development specialist. You know, they have some economic development, they have some engineering fees. And I know we had to up it because you're starting the comp plan.
Correct, Mayor and Council, we had to put an amount in to anticipate roughly that first half of the comp plan.
Okay. And building inspections, again, we have a salary for an inspector. Do permits come into play at all? They'll pay some of that back at all?
Yeah, that's on the revenue side. So
Okay,
if you looked at the page before that page that you're
Yeah.
looking at, it's in,
Kind of unknown too, you don't.
it's in licenses and permits.
right, okay.
Yeah.
And then Pioneer Days, we have 15.3 and now we're at 25.3. I know we wrapped our arms around the garbage and refuse side of things. What's the 15 from 25? I know there's fireworks involved, which comes out of the liquor fund.
That's the 15.
Yep, let me find.
And now it's,
Oh, yeah, so the 15,000 is the fireworks. And then remember, we decided to pay those bills for, instead of passing it, like making
the refuse and electricity and,
yeah, we just
Oh.
pay for those now instead of going back and forth. and
okay,
Giving them money, making a donation, so you had said that you were gonna go for that for like 2 or 3 years for sure,
yeah.
and they'd have to come back.
And then how's that reflected? Does the liquor store pay for both the 15 plus the extra 10?
The liquor store transfers 15,000
Okay.
when we get over to doing that.
Oh, okay.
Yep,
Okay,
so there's a transfer in, if you look at the.
yep, I saw that on page 4.
There's a transfer, it's $70,000 from the liquor fund.
Mm-hmm,
15 of that is for the fireworks, and the remaining portion just is their transfer to help the
Okay.
general fund with, like, my salary is paid out of the general fund, but I do their finances and-
Okay.
and stuff like that, and payroll and stuff and all of that.
all right. Well, as far as MS4, I'm on board with that as well. I mean, this seems like the most equitable way to do it as far as the city's concerned, and money saving, et cetera. As far as the landowners and whatnot, again, I don't know, like I said, some other municipalities have been going by their roof square footage of their roofs, to curb frontage to their homes. It's been all kinds of formulas and whatnot, but I'm very serious about paying for a sign and giving them plenty of exposure. And then we can actually say, we did our very best. And if they want to rant and rave and be upset and, but to explain this budget process, again, those who come will know. Those who don't come didn't want to know. So, but I'm very serious about putting one of those signs out in the corner if you'll allow us, and I will be more than happy to pay for it. As much exposure as we can get, especially when we're talking about the sewer and why. It's gonna be an education, informal or informational thing as well, as far as, we'll have Paul here and Parrish here, and they can say why we're doing what we do, why we're anticipating these costs and whatnot, because there's some mandates coming from the state that we have to fulfill. And it's gotta come from somewhere, just like the stormwater was a mandate, that they said, go measure silt in the bottom of the silt ponds and the parking ponds, and it's something, it's our obligation, and there's no other way to fulfill it, nobody else is gonna pay for it, so.
Well, we need to educate people on this.
Exactly, and it's upfront and personal. Again, if you wanna come and you'll learn. If you don't, you have no room to be squawky, but they're gonna squawk anyway, so. And I would too if I didn't know as much. I mean, we're fortunate enough to be immersed and learn about this stuff because we have to. But I feel more fulfilled that we know.
Yeah, I like to know rather than not know too, but the priorities, make time for what you
Yeah,
make time for.
I got it.
Work on.
Anything else good?
Nope.
I'm no surprise. I'm fully on board with the switch to the MS4. I just think it's a more efficient way, and the reality is, what is it? 800 people a year, or I think it was 800 people a year of our citizens aren't paying the MS4. I mean, we're assessing it to them, but we have to pay the fee to have it assessed to their taxes.
Well, they get
So-
charged a 10% fee.
Right.
To cover that.
Right, but I'm just saying, it's extra,
saying,
it's
but
extra,
It's extra work.
extra work that I think we just gotta avoid. As far as the overall budget, this is exactly what I asked for. I know Kate asked me what I'm hoping for. I said, just show me a balanced budget. So this is what it is. Now, here's my problem. It's the same problem I had back in the fall before. What? It's nothing with the numbers. It has the overall philosophy. We as citizens of St. Francis are gonna take a tax hit. We do every year. I'm not saying we shouldn't have a tax increase. Of course, we're gonna have a tax increase. Inflation drives everything up. Here's where my problem lies. Even if it's a token, $100,000 or $200,000, what we're telling the citizens is you either have to come up with more revenue or you've got to cut expenses
In their personal.
in their personal lives. We as a city, we're not gonna take any cuts. We're gonna keep everything the same.
That's up to you, though. You could decide to do that, but you have to ask yourself what department and what service do you want to reduce to the citizens?
And that always becomes an argument on a state level, federal level, any city level, and I just say, well, then you gotta trim the 100,000 evenly across the board then. You get my point. My point is, as a citizen, as a private citizen, I've either got to increase revenue or I've got to cut expenditures. But as a city, we're not gonna do that. We're gonna keep business as exactly the same as we are now.
Going up 10% every year or whatever.
And so I'm not opposed to taxes going up. I recognize that taxes are gonna go up. That's not the issue. It's gotta be a shared sacrifice sort of deal. So for right now, I'm very comfortable with this. I appreciate your work and I'm not upset with anything you've done here. That's what I asked for. But I appreciate your question, Mike. I may entertain you for a few seconds, but bear with me. But we, as citizens, are asked those two choices. And I know what Mike's gonna say, and Mike's gonna say, you can increase revenue by development. But what's, and we'll talk about that later, but that, as I read the statement at the last meeting, that comes with pitfalls. We don't talk about when you build the apartment building, you don't talk about the part that we gave away at least a $500,000 parcel for free, basically to a developer. We don't talk about that part of the equation. We don't talk about the fact that the apartment creates more wear and tear on our roads and bridges, and it creates more police calls, it creates more fire calls. We don't talk about the minus side of the apartment complex. All we talk about is the plus side of the apartment complex. Well, there's a negative side to the apartment complex too. And we never put a number to that.
There's also a negative side of
So-
trying to give away land that people don't even want it when it's free. I mean, we tried to sell lots for $1, and if we don't get that development, we don't get that revenue, so it's a problem on both sides, and I don't disagree with what you just said, but there's always a positive and negative in any situation, depending on what side of the fence you're on.
Then how come we never talk about the negative side? How come we always talk about just the positive side? We never put a dollar amount to the extra police, fire, wear and tear on the roads and bridges. We never talked
Well,
about the $500,000 that taxpayer money went to buy those lots and to clear those lots. We never talk about that side of the equation.
Well, I think with that lot, that's a little unfair as far as clear it, because it needs to be cleared for other reasons too, but I think too, we do talk about those things. I brought up the crime that we have in the current apartment buildings that we have, which is very minimal, to where that crime doesn't sound like we're gonna need to hire another officer to cover. There's things that we do investigate, we do look into, depending on where our priorities lie, right? And it's again, individual priorities, different perspectives in every situation. But like I say, if you don't get development, costs continue to go up. That's my argument for the building, right? Obviously, the residents that were here that showed up felt differently, council felt differently, and that's okay. That's why we have 5 people. It's an uneven number that we come to a vote and we accept the decision, whatever's made. But we do talk about those things. I think you guys talked about what you felt was negative about the apartment. I talked about what I felt was positive. I was in favor of it. You were, so I do think those things are talked about depending on what side of the fence you're on. Again, the EDA just put up the East Shop site next to Casey's there for market value. But we tried to give that lot away for I don't know how long. And I'll be interested to see if, and I would love to see a business take it for that price. I would love that more than anything. But I don't understand how it's gonna go for that price when it didn't before, but hey, maybe I'm wrong and I have no problem trying to get that. But it's give and take when you're trying to develop things and it's the reason you do those things, it's a sacrifice now, which you may or may not agree with. Obviously, you didn't agree with and that's fine. But I think those things are talked about and to say they're not, I think is a little unfair.
No, so I hear
You
your
know what
point.
I'm saying?
No, I do, Joe, but tell me when we talked about, how much we spent, because I haven't gotten a straight answer on this yet. Kate's given me some rough estimates on it
Yeah.
yet. Do we know what we have invested in that land behind Subway between knocking buildings down, between clearing trees, between all the title work transferred, between all,
Overall,
yeah.
How much we paid the first.
Right, exactly. You couldn't, that's the problem.
it's been many years, but yeah.
That's the
I get
problem.
what you're saying.
And it wasn't talked about in the two EDA meetings when we decided to sell it for $5,000. Nobody asked, how much do we have into this piece of property? And even just the simple answer of how much did we pay for it, not all the maintenance and all that, I understand taking that, getting that actual number would take a lot of time to figure that out, but nobody even discussed it. It wasn't even part of the two EDA meetings.
Nobody asked that question.
Nobody asked that question and.
Don't you think that should be a question that should be asked?
I mean, it factors into things, sure, but it's the thing, again, it's unfortunately, if we were in a more desirable location. And I love St. Francis, I love this area. Okay, I'm not trying to bash on St. Francis. I don't think because we have $2 generals, it's a terrible place to live, right? I think that the fact that it's unfortunate that the location we are in, the very top of the metro area, and the population that we have, that it's, I mean, Feldman used to always say too, when you get to that 10,000 mark is kind of when businesses want to come in. Well, you can argue whether or not things are good or bad, right? If a Walmart moved in here, some people would be happy, some people would hate it, and you'd probably put some of these businesses out of business, right? So there's positive and negatives to everything, and that's what happens, but it's to get to that point to want things here, and you get people that move up here, and I'm a person that moved up here from Coon Rapids. But I moved up here for affordable housing when I moved out here in 07. Costs continue to rise. The wastewater facility obviously affected things. Every year costs go up and you can try to minimize it all you want, but if you're gonna ask too, what are we gonna give up as a city? We have to look at things too, whereas, not a shot across the bow, but like I voted against the fire department. Not that you don't necessarily need them, but it's, can we work without them? Can we struggle there? That's gonna put stress on Dave and the rest of the department too, if you don't hire those people. So there's a negative effect to not hiring those people too. Financially is the positive part, right? You save money. So there's things too that we have to look at and you have to make some concessions sometimes to get that development, to get that revenue, which sucks because of our location. Now you can say no, but then costs go up for each household too. If we're not developing, we're not building. And it doesn't mean we build for building's sake, like your article too, from the last time you read it. I get that too. That's where it's a perspective thing too. There's just a lot, I think, that goes into it that it's not. I do think the positive and negatives are talked about depending on where you sit, right? Every development that we've had, that we've looked into, whether we've agreed to it or turned it down. You get people that are for it or against it, and I do think it's talked about, I guess is the best I could say, but there are definitely things in any situation. You can argue about fireworks at Pioneer Days, the positive and negative of having those. I mean, you can argue about anything, right? So it just comes down to, I think, what is your priorities, what is your goals, and if you're going to say, what are we gonna give up, or where are we gonna get these down? Rob, we used to always go back and forth with, and he wanted, let's cut 5% across the board is what he wanted. And you ask him, where do you wanna cut it from? And for a long time, he would ask, what do you mean? I don't wanna cut services. Where the hell are you saving money then? Because if we do keep things status quo, that stuff, every dollar is tied to something, right? In theory. It's sometimes you're under budget, sometimes you're over budget, you figure it out, it balances out. But all those dollars are connected to something. So if you want to cut 5%, from where is the question? And if we want to cut something, then where are we cutting it from, or what are we giving up? And what is it that the people want less of? You talk about parks, people like the parks, or you have the Parks Commission, and if the few people that have spoken up in favor.
Just for clarification.
Where do you
though-
wanna take it from?
Just for clarification, though, I know we talked about this before. It's not a cut. It's a decrease in the increase they're asking for, which results in a cut, but it is not a cut. I'm not asking for us to not increase the budget across the board everywhere. It's an increase in budget, which results, if you make,
Well,
if you make these
everybody-
decisions, it results in a cut, but it's not a cut. Your revenue is still increasing.
I get what you're saying, but I think too, though, if you're increasing it less, that means you're not giving somebody a 3% raise, or you're.
Sometimes it means you have to make hard decisions like, I'm sorry, I keep picking on this, and I just use it as an example, Paul, I'm not that upset about, but sometimes you gotta make decisions like no fire pole or no dog park.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about. It doesn't have to always immediately result in a cut to fire or police. There's other ways of trimming it. And here's one other question I need to ask this to everybody here. My city portion of my taxes, it's public information, anybody can look it up, has gone up 16%, over 16% in some years for the past 3 years. When do I as a citizen say this has got to stop? 16%, 16%, 16%, that's just the city portion of my taxes.
Right here.
Well, that's why I'm talking about making a sacrifice. I'm saying that, how do you answer a citizen like me who comes and says, my taxes have gone up from the city of St. Francis 16% each year for the last 3 years? How do you answer that?
Well, and that's where I'm asking you is and I asked you that when you were sitting out there, is
Yes.
where do you want it to come from?
I just gave you some suggestions. Going forward, I'm not talking about taking the dog park down or anything like that, but
That's another topic.
I'm just saying, going forward, we're putting up a fence here along the public works. Is it really needed? I don't know that it's really needed. That was $5,000 or $8,000. It's that kind of stuff that I'm talking about. And I get that. You can't just say, every state, every city, every federal government, everybody's argued about this. I can't be here, can't be here. So maybe the best way is across the board, and directors have to say, okay, I gotta take $20,000 out of my budget for whatever this year. I don't know, but that's when I'm just telling you where I'm coming from and what I'm asking for.
I just think it's a lot easier
So-
said than done. Too. So that's something too that I threw out there. It's, if you decrease money for the police department, you can tax those officers to where the service they're providing, the morale can go down, things like that, and that can affect how better they serve our citizens. So I'm not saying more money makes them service better, because it really depends on the attitude and the leadership, which I do think we have good leadership. But there's things too that I know when I worked for a company that I was working nonstop overtime and I was back, like, it did affect my behavior, right? Should it have? Should I have been a better person? Probably, but there is times where as a human being, if it taxes you that much, it affects your morale, it affects how you perform. And in a lot of these, especially emergency services, that's the most important. Paul, I'm sure would affect his people too.
That's kind of why, what I'm, to your point, because I totally agree with you. That's why I'm not asking for it. I mean, Darcy said it herself. $100,000, $200,000 is a drop in the bucket, but at least it's something. Because we're just operating like, we don't have to make any cuts. We don't have to make anything. Citizens have to make all that. And
We had that reserve talk last year. I mean, is that something you want to explore or?
potentially.
I mean,
I'm just asking for some sort of sacrifice. If it moves the needle a fraction of an inch, that's all I'm asking for. I'm not one of these flat tax people who doesn't believe we should increase the budgets or overall.
Well,
It's
yeah,
not
no.
what I'm asking for.
That's part of the issue too, is that a lot of people don't, I think, realize it's the hard part. It's a hard conversation to have, but for years, we didn't do a lot of things and we didn't provide services to the best of our ability either. To where I do think that we have been playing catch up for a long time. And I think we still probably are in some aspects. I think we've come a long way since 16 when I got here, but there was a lot of things too that, and some things that you could argue too, maybe we hired too many people here or there, in my opinion, but they're here and, we're performing things. But at the same time, it's just one of those things that I think it's easier to sit here and say that. And when it comes down to exactly where you want to get it from, that's the hard part, is finding out where it is, and to just put it on the department heads too. That's tough too, but if that's what you want to do, that's something too to explore in the future too. I get what you're saying with the dog parks and things like that, and that's part of providing services to the people too, of where are my taxes going, because people don't realize that, I try to avoid calling 911, but when I do call them, I'm glad they'll be there, you know, so.
Well, and I mean, I agree with you, Joe, that there's pros and cons to everything. And whatever the decision is, like maybe I voted no on something and you voted yes, but we still agreed with each other in some of the reasons for our decisions. You know, everybody comes from a different place. You moved up here for affordable housing. I moved up here because I wanted less traffic and, you know, some more space. And that's why I moved up here. And I hear that a lot, that people moved here because they wanted it to be more rural.
Timing too. I mean,
Timing, yeah, I mean, it all depends. And
Top of
so,
the bubble when I moved.
and
was
so,
smart.
and I just, I know we're gonna talk about water and sewer here, but I just, everybody says we need more development, we need more development, so the water and sewer rates will go down. And I understand that that's a topic for a lot of folks, but I just don't think it should be the only reason that we want development here.
No.
And I think that sometimes that sounds like it is, like, the only reason we want development here is because the water and sewer will go down because you have more people. And
It'll
I,
stabilize. That's
and
the
I
word
think
was
that-
looking for earlier.
and maybe I don't mean only, but the top priority for a lot of folks is get the water and sewer rates down, which I think is important, but I don't think we should just develop just for that. So that's where I'm going. I mean, I did say, I wish some of these numbers had gone down. I mean, if someone, the department heads, anybody could just use your pencil and sharpen it a little bit and be like, do I really need this to go up this much? Or, you know, do I really need this, or do I really need that? That's what you're, to your point, Mark, that's what people do at home. When their expenses go up out of no control of their own, they have to figure out how they're gonna make ends meet. And a lot of kitchen table discussions happen, and you feel like we're not sitting around the kitchen table trying to figure it out. We're just letting the homeowners do that. That's how I think I heard you
Well
say.
put, thank you.
So
So,
I would be on board with going forward, like I said, but I would be thrilled if a few of these numbers went down. Or what you're saying, you
so
know,
as presented, I think, as presented, I think we go forward. I'm just saying, come September, I'm just telling you, I'm just giving everybody the heads up that this is my belief. I'm not gonna budge from this. I think I think we have to share it. And so it may very well be a no for me when the time comes. I don't think we're there right now, but I appreciate seeing the even appropriate budget. So thank you for your work. I don't think there's much else to discuss right now on this. On the so the MS4 and this are pretty settled, unless you've got questions.
Well,
Okay.
the levy as it's stated here will be what is presented in September for you to set as your preliminary levy.
Good.
And then remember, from there, when you go to December, you can't go up except for some extenuating circumstances. You could only go down.
Thank you. Anybody, anything else on?
I kind of do.
Go ahead, Kevin.
You know, to cut or not cut, to not increase, is it a token or would it be is it something effective? And you say you might be a no vote come September. That's your prerogative. And what if you get another no vote? What if we get 3 no votes? There's how many people here? Then where are we at? So the thing is null and void. So do we start over?
It's your duty to tell them how to get you to it, yeah. And it's up to them to try to.
And I've looked at these numbers too, you know, over the years I've been doing this and even today, is that there's no magic potion. And I know Kate said we've sat down as department heads and we've put our heads together, and then I look at these individual things as far as it really is percentages, very single digit percentages. Where would you cut? And I the same as you. Sometimes I figure it's not good to have nice things. Because again, you know, I could move. I could resign my position here and move because the taxes are, it's public knowledge. I think it's over $6,500 a year. That's a lot of money. And I go, do I want to do this? If I leave, somebody will buy my house and just take my place. And they'll come to maybe a meeting or two, maybe not. But it just, you know, I agree with you. I agree Joe responded very eloquently in what he had to say, but what is the answer? I know what you want, but what can realistically, what can you have? If you sat down with the chief and said, For 8 hours, you sit in an office and look at each other and go, what do we do? Sit down with Kate, what do we do? What do we do? And I've asked myself the same question, what do we do?
But do we all complain about state and federal taxes? And this is exactly a conversation that happens on the state and the federal level.
Yeah.
Exact same conversation. We can't cut here, can't cut here, we can't cut, nobody can cut. So what happens? 16% increase this year, 16% increase next year, 16% the year after
But when you
that.
plant that flag, what,
So
again, is it a token or is it effective? I mean, that's the thing.
My only issue with that argument though is too, is if I think the city level is the most intimate that a taxpayer can be with, because we're right here, it's all right here, and I don't see. Special funding for, subsidizing really a lot, you can argue the abatement, whatever, is considered subsidizing, which I understand that viewpoint too, right? But I don't see like the state, to me, the state and federal have a lot more, giveaway, so to speak, or waste, you could say, and I think the Doge, which I wouldn't mind seeing some, if you wanna go through the city too and find out where you can, where you got the waste or whatever, by all means, I would encourage that. I just think if you're gonna tell them I'm probably gonna vote no in September, that's unfair to the department heads, because you need to tell them how to get you to a yes. And they can look at it and see what they can do or not.
I'll be happy to sit down with any one of them if they want to sit down. I'll be happy to sit down with anybody.
Well,
if
that's
they
up
want
to you
sit
though,
down.
you gotta approach them and tell them how to get you there,
Well,
that's
and,
your job.
but the department heads are
There
the
you go, Bonnie.
experts. in
That's why,
their
that's why we
department.
hire a city administrator, Joe, and why we hire department heads. It's not my job to go out and tell you what kind of lawnmower to buy.
Yeah, they're the department heads are the experts in their department. They should be able to, if we ask them to cut expenses somewhere, they're the ones who are gonna be able to say where it can be cut. And I mean, we're not in there every day, doing the jobs that their folks are doing. So,
Just remember, every cut affects every citizen. Just because when we cut something from police, when we cut something from parks, when we cut something from fire, when we don't develop, it costs everybody money. We had people sit here and tell me flat out, raise our city water, raise our sewer rates, just don't bring in an apartment. If they're willing to tell me that, then I don't want to hear them complaining about it, because they could help cover it. They could help bring things down. They're not doing those things either. They're not. They're telling me, I'd rather have no apartment. I don't want our roads done. I don't want this done. I don't want that done until their road isn't done. And then they're coming here and complaining to us. When we have this lovely system that they're not getting these huge assessments on their roads. We're giving them services. We're giving them stuff for that money. We're not just willy-nilly it out there. And it stinks that the only way that we can really give them a break is development when they don't want that. That's our,
That's a really good
that's,
point.
that is the biggest thing that we can do for them, is help them, is to bring in businesses and to bring in apartments and to bring in housing. We don't have housing. When I need to move, whether I want to be on council or not, I'm out of here, because there is absolutely nowhere for me to move.
But I'm just gonna tell you the conversations I had. I just had one with a couple I met at a funeral.
Or I could finish.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Okay,
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
But
Go
I'm
ahead.
just saying that,
Yep.
we are offering them things and they are rejecting them. So in that matter, they are saying, we are okay with these increases. We'll have to figure it out at home. They're gonna come here and complain about it, but every time you tell me no to development, every time you say not in my backyard, you're saying okay to these things because everything is going to cost more.
I would encourage you though, I'm gonna tell my story here about the couple. Never met them before. I said they moved to St. Francis 3 years ago. They said they love St. Francis. And they were talked about the apartment building thing. And here was their response. They said, I moved to St. Francis, and 9 out of 10 people I talked to, 9 out of 10, not 50%, say they moved to St. Francis to get away from the city. That's why they moved to St. Francis.
Yep.
How do you answer that when you're talking about developing and turning it into the city they
Then
just moved
if they
away
moved
from?
here to have the small city, to have that, then they have to understand that costs them more
There's a
money.
premium to be paid.
That's what you get. That's your personal choice. You made that choice. You moved here. If you didn't research what our city water and sewer were, that's not on me. If your realtor lied to you about, that's not on me. But if you come here and you want it to be small, you have to realize your portion costs more. That's the bottom line.
So
If I want a big house, it's going to cost me more.
do you think
If I
there's,
want a small house, it's gonna cost me less. That, it's just the way it is. If you don't want growth and development, then you are accepting the fact that it's going to cost you more to live here. Because we are giving our residents services. Cut police, guess what? Anoka County is gonna come in way more for way less services. I mean, fire, we have other communities needing us to help them. Because we have stability. That's a lot of things. We have a stable council. That's something, you look around our other cities, they don't have that. They don't have
Stable
stable
how?
staff. I mean, I'm not stable, but everybody else is. But that's one of the things. If you want the small, then things cost you more. If you don't want a Walmart, which I don't want Walmart, but if you don't want some of those other things coming in here, then you have to accept the fact that, yeah, it's gonna cost more, because cost sharing is what brings down your costs.
And it is your job to tell them what lawnmower to. He
Yeah.
wants the rider that's, efficient, whatever, that saves time, or you can give him the little Simpsons one that he's walking down with the blades cutting it,
you're
just saying.
you're splitting hairs. You're telling me that, so what you're telling me, what I'm hearing you, and I don't believe this, but you're telling me here is there's no waste in the city of St. Francis.
I didn't say there's no waste. What I said is that people have to understand, if you want small, things are going to cost you more. When you only have one grocery store, County Market is gonna cost you more than if you have a store over here and a store over here. It's the give and take. I grew up in a small town. It did cost more. It just, everything did, because there aren't the number of people. And if you're okay with the number of people being here and you don't want growth, then you also are accepting the fact that things are going to cost you a little bit more. I'm not saying there's no waste anywhere. There's always waste in little places, I'm sure. But our job is to do the best that we can. And I think that when people are sitting here telling me they don't want growth, then my job is to tell them, which I did. I said, then everything's going to increase, and they all.
But then
watch
that's a
the
small
meetings.
sample. The majority of the people I think have tolerance is the key word
Yes.
there. They, like Joe says, they don't come, they don't make noise, they don't voice their opinion, they don't write letters. They have tolerance for it. They just figure, I guess I'm gonna have to work harder to keep the things I got coming my way, which is police, fire, roads, bridges, a good administration, et cetera. So we're seeing a small percentage. I get your point, though. It makes sense. And we heard a few of those people here say that. But
And I think we hear even more people on the internet, which doesn't count
They're super.
all the time. No, but just saying that they moved here to be small.
Yeah.
We see that a lot. I can take that as, that's why they moved here. I don't think they're lying about that. But again, it's like, you grow up I grew up in Warren. You wanted to go shopping, you drove to Thief River Falls, or you drove to Grand Forks. That cost you more money. That cost you more, because you had to drive your car. There was no other way to get there. There wasn't a bus, there wasn't a train, there was nothing. That's all part of something that you just had to accept. There wasn't a Costco, there was nothing. You paid more for your groceries, you paid more for your gas, because it's a small community. That's what happens.
so let's finish the question, Mayor. If you are a no vote and you turn one or two more individuals here to count it the same way.
I'm not gonna try to turn anybody, just for the
Well,
record,
you know
so-
what I'm saying? I
Yeah.
shouldn't say turn. That's
Yep.
not the right terminology. So this is all moot point then. So where do we go from here? Or do we?
Then it would be a direction to Darcy to, let's just say it's $100,000 or $200,000. I'm just gonna use a hypothetical number. I don't know,
But that puts the burden on her and takes it off of us.
I'm not afraid to make the decisions. I'll make the decisions across the board and say every department, you break that $200,000 up between each department. You want me to make the decision? I'll make the decision. I'm okay with that.
I'm not saying I disagree with the concept of what you're talking about. It's how you go about it and where would you? What's the first thing that you, yeah, where do you
If you're gonna
start?
say it without an actionable
Way
path
to-
forward. Then I think it's unfair to say it, I guess is my point. I don't wanna keep splitting hairs. I think we should.
I just made my recommendation just across the board. What are we talking about? Let's just use the hypothetical number of $200,000. What are we talking about each department?
Well, each department is different, like some
Correct.
departments have, you know, are millions of dollars.
Yeah, you'd have to do it
As a
based on
percentage,
percentage.
correct.
And, you know, other departments aren't as big, so, but it's kind of like, I look at it as like, what service is low on the totem pole for you, you know?
I just think we have to, I don't have it right.
You don't even
Unfortunately,
see, I think the issue is, so
No.
I get your point and I get your intent, right? And I don't think your intent's bad, but I think too, you're saying these things without understanding what the consequences can be positive or negative, right? When you say consequences, it could be, you know, that could mean firing 3 people from Public Works, and now we're saying, well, we just hired a guy to help us with this. But now we gotta fire him because that's what, so when you just pick a percentage and the percentages are different, what does that percentage mean from that department? If you don't know that, I don't think it's fair to necessarily say, let's cut it across the board, because we don't know how that's gonna affect the services that we provide to the people. So that's where I say it's deeper, and I think it's a harder question, it's easier said than done. Because without really digging into these things, which by all means.
how does it ever get done then, Joe? How does it
Are you
ever
gonna-
stop?
Well, and you know what, I honestly, I trust our department heads to be pretty conservative. I think they've shown that in the past. And does that mean they don't need oversight? No. But I think too, it's when we agree, we vote yes or no on things when they ask for things. And that's where our cuts or lack of increase, our right sizing takes place. Sorry, I hate that word. It's semantics, but that's the only point I'm trying to make. Like I said, I don't want to sit here all night and argue the same thing. We're doing it over and over. I think we understand where each other's coming from. I personally think we can move on, but I get what you're saying. I think you understand what I'm saying, and I think it's, you know, it's something that we just see each other's point and we move on. But I don't think, like, I'm not trying to bash you here. I just think it's something that it's easier said than done, in my opinion, because there's a lot more to it. And how does it get done? That means if you want to see those cuts, that means you got to dive into it. And it's not what department head wants to meet with me. It's who do you want to meet with to understand it better? In my opinion, unfortunately, that's your job, not their job. Their job is to run the day-to-day operations in their department as efficiently as possible, not, hey, Mr. Mayor, you know, where.
But we set their budget.
Yeah,
We set their budget.
right.
It's up to them then to follow our directive when we set the budget. I am not.
I'm just saying, if
gonna-
you're gonna vote no, then you should have.
I'm perfectly comfortable to sit down with any department head or whatever else and talk to them. That's not the issue. It's not like I have to come to them and say, where could you cut? Anything like that. No, it's simply across the board, and I'm
Yeah,
happy
that's
to
how
meet
it
with
happens.
you.
It happens, but you have to sit down and go through everything and say, where can I see this?
That's
cut?
not my job as mayor. Not my
Mayor-
job.
Mayor and council, may
Sorry.
I? So I know
disagree. I think it's-
we are going pretty far down certain trails
Sorry.
with some of this, and I would caution across the board equally to every department, because each department is very unique in size. Some of them, I'll use recycling, is very heavily funded from an outside source. It's not city dollars. If you are interested in making a cut, I would ask that you give us a dollar amount and let department heads, because it may be where one department has more to give or another one, you know, needs more. So I would say versus line by line, that would be an ask I would say put on the department heads and not try to equalize across all departments, because it really isn't going to work. Building inspections, right, heavily based on permits. Recycling very heavily based on grants. So there are some factors that if we had an amount, we could huddle back in our room and figure it out. But to try to put that a same amount in every department would be very difficult.
I think that's fair.
Me too.
Good point. Thanks for bringing that up. So if you want me to throw out an amount, I'm just gonna throw out an amount. And yes, it's a very token amount. Really acknowledge it, $100,000.
Well, and that's why I said too, the department heads are the experts in their field. They're the ones that would know, oh yeah, I probably could cut a little here, I could probably cut a little here. We don't know that. We're just we're just presented something and we vote yes or no on it.
That comment though, sorry.
I
but
just-
That's disrespectful to the department heads.
I was
Like,
gonna
you're
say,
just
I
over
think
here throwing
Todd
money in
and-
the track,
I
like-
think they
Oh,
all
no, I
already
didn't
do
do
it
it
that
that
way.
way.
I know,
I
but
just-
That's how I
you're
think.
sitting there
That-
going,
I'm
oh, well,
not
they can
saying
cut
that's
here,
what
they
you're
can
doing,
cut
but I'm
there.
saying it's whatever.
No, I just meant that they're the experts
hard.
and they would know where there might be something that.
Right.
But I feel like when they're looking at their budgets, they're already doing that. I don't think Todd's sitting there going, where can I increase something? Or Paul or anybody. I don't think they're looking at it that way. I think they're already trying their darndest to come in the lowest they can. That's just my opinion. I don't think any of our departments are sitting here going, oh, well, I can just go ahead. I'm gonna tell them I need this much because they'll give it to me. I'm good. I don't have to cut. I think they're looking at it going, this is the bare bones of what I can do. This is what I need minimum to run my department. That's how I look at it. I don't think they're sitting there trying to make increases. I know for a fact if Paul could cut down costs, he would. It's just not, they're coming to us with what they need to run their department. And if we're gonna take money from the police, then guess what? We're gonna lose Citizens Academy. We're gonna lose Pwn with a Cop. We're gonna lose bowling with our cops. Those are the things and so, okay, we saved you $3 on your taxes. I feel good. Sarah feels real good. But we took all this stuff away. We took all this stuff away from you. Now our fire department, maybe a couple, maybe we don't need all those guys. Yeah, that's okay. Till my house is on fire. Till I need that service. I can't do that because I don't think any of our department heads are sitting there running rampant. I think they're always looking at, this is how much I need to run my department effectively and efficiently for the residents. And
Well, I think rather than beating a dead horse, we should move on.
Yeah,
to
I do
rates.
too.
And I think too that it's, to Mark's point too, that's up to us when those things come to us, like, are we gonna do this for our parks? Are we gonna do this for that? At that point, that's when you cast your vote. That's where that comes from. And then if the people wanna vote again, they vote. Go from there, I guess. I mean, for now. But I don't think we're making a lot of headway. I mean, you got your number, so.
I agree, but I want to be fair and honest with you guys. So if I don't tell you my concerns,
No, I
then
get it.
come September, then you're all like in shock. I'm telling you my concerns. I mean, I think it's been a good discussion, a good dialogue. I agree with you. I don't think there's anything else to really discuss at this point. I think the majority is comfortable with this budget. I think it'll pass. Whether I vote for it or against it, I don't know. We'll see when the time comes, so. I don't know. Go ahead.
Mayor and council,
Yes.
so in this discussion, you brought up wanting to hold a town hall or some type of a work session. Is that is that a majority interest?
I don't know, Kevin, were you thinking about just doing it at a regular city council meeting as part of it? Or-
Yeah, our council meeting is usually pretty short. I guess it's nothing special, don't have to do anything special. I just, in full, I hate the word transparency, but in full open honesty about, and then this is two big deals, since we've had a big deal. I think it's worth making the effort, and if, if there's one lone person in the back booing or clapping, then we'll know.
I personally think we just tie it in with a regular meeting and make it agenda item that
During a
we can
council
open
meeting.
to the public, right?
I would appreciate it.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Just wanted to clarify.
Yep. Anything else on the other discussion? Otherwise, we're gonna go to Darcy for water and sewer. Go ahead, Darcy.
Hunter's been raising his hand. I don't
Oh,
know
I'm-
if he can speak.
I'll give you like 1 minute, Hunter. I'll give Mike a minute too, if he wants a minute.
Where I'm from?
Yes, please.
Okay, Hunter Carlson at 2612 230th Court Northwest. So there's a lot of things, so I'll just keep it short. But I think a great way of looking at it is kind of like to Kevin's point, is instead of trying to cut the budget, I think it's really good if you if I'm looking at this money, right, you're gonna charge me, $1,000 some for my taxes. I don't know where that's going. I just look at it and I'm like, you guys are just taking my money. I think with that, like with the transparency, if you show me where my money's going, if I know exactly where it's going, and if I see, oh yes, I have these parks, and you lay it all out, like you are having 24/7 coverage, you have all these volunteers on your line. If your house is on fire, we got you. If you want your dog to go to a park, we got you. I think it's more of just showing them what they're paying for. And I think that's where people will be more comfortable if you're like, you know what, we have this many fire department, like this fire department's going good. You got these police on your streets, ready to go, you know, and you got all these programs going on of like the Cone, the Cop, the Citizens Academy, and you just really explain it and really have some sort of like more tangible thing to show them where the dollars are going, because it's very easy to look at that and be like, this is so disconnected from reality for them, you know, like the money to services, but there's all this huge funnel that it goes through, right? And then there's some money taken out here and there. And I think if you explain that more, I think you have a better chance of dealing with it that way instead of trying to just go with a line by line cutting. So that's all I got.
I totally appreciate that. I think the problem comes from the county that puts up the notices that they don't allow you to do that, or can they? Would that even be an option on your tax payments, as far as I understood?
They do not. I've checked into this. They do not.
That's where.
Thank you,
It
Hunter.
should be a separate mailer from the city to do that, which would then cost you more as well.
And-
Just throwing that
You
out.
want to save your minute for the sewer water? You want to go now, Mike? I don't care.
No, I'll save my minute.
Okay.
I ain't done yet.
And
Outside of the box.
And just to reiterate, you know, that is the idea of the first meeting in December, that is when we discuss this in full.
Mhm.
And they get notice and they're told to show up at that meeting to, you know, hear what the discussion is on the tax levy and the budgets.
By then, it's usually too late though to get any changes made, and then you have the angst of going down there in December and you gotta worry, you might get something next year. So the sooner even September is better than December, I
Well,
think.
I mean, they could come, we
Right.
discussed the first budget, but that is the process in the state of Minnesota. So just, that's what's been dictated to us, that's what we do. And I know we're checking into this.
Tax calculator or
Yeah.
whatever, you know.
Yeah, we're gonna look at that, we try and get the information out, but
And you're waiting on real information, real numbers, other entities too.
mhm. So,
Sewer and water.
yay. Da-da-da-da. So this slide, after going through expenditures, looking, you know, they've done their budgets on those. I know Paul and his guys really walk through everything that we need to maintain what we have. We have a water plant that was built back in 2008. You know, and then the wastewater treatment plant. Well, both of those are going to, you know, need new roofs, need, you know, other things. A big thing they discovered, sorry, not me.
It's out there.
Was this media at the water treatment plant that we were thinking it was gonna cost, you know, like what, at first? 60,000, and now we have realized it's gonna be more like $800,000 to replace that. A big cost is the disposal of the old media, right? So they went through all of that, and then all of that I try and analyze and get it in there, and some of you have heard the term before, you know, this cash balance that we need, we don't want to run down to nothing. That's not a way to run a business or anything. So after looking at all of that and trying to estimate, you know, like what are people using for water, what are new connections and everything like that. I am proposing that the 2006 water rates are gonna go up, the base on water and usage 25%. And then the sewer base in usage are going up go up 5%. Then in 2007, water base and usage would go up 15%, base and usage on sewer would go up 20%, but that doesn't mean that bill is gonna go up that much, because that's just the rates. When we get to the next page, it'll show you what an actual bill was. But down on the bottom, that's showing you where the rates would go, okay? Go on, so moving over, if somebody is using 3,000 gallons, their bill currently, if you use 3,000 gallons, and barring the look back program in the summer, I mean, 3,000 would be the same no matter what, but we have that look back program in the summer where you don't get billed all of your water and sewer, or all your sewer, sorry. So 3,000, they would be paying right now 78.89. They would be going in 26 to 88.96, and then in 27 to 104.65. And you can see the bill would go, overall increase would be 13% in 2026, and then 18% in 2027. This is the one graph that I've had it before, you guys that have been on council before. This is showing your cash balance versus your recommended cash balance, and that is 40% of next year's expenditures, plus your debt service, plus your capital minus, you know, if you do have to sell a bond. And so this is what I'm estimating the cash balance will be with those water and sewer rate increases. So you can see the blue line should stay above that orange line, and it does. In 30, it gets it's way up there, but 30 is several years out that I try and temper that a little bit. But I also threw in there, if we don't do anything to our rates, this is what I'm saying the cash balances would go, and you can see the blue line is below the orange line. So with that, I'd open it up for questions.
So if we allow the blue line to go below the other line, what does that mean?
You're gonna have a
What do
tough,
you have to do then?
you're gonna get to the point where we were in 2015, where you're gonna, we'll send out 85, 45, whatever.
Yeah.
I think so.
You know, we talked about that we don't ever want to do that again.
I asked for the record because that's.
What, I guess I'm unfamiliar with what you're talking
So,
about.
and
85-40.
what got me here, as
Yep.
well as Feldman and Bauer, and Farah and Mike probably, was the increase we got so I moved here from Queen Rapids, which was on the Met Council, didn't understand it. Been a long time, whatever. We got a thing in the mail saying we're gonna get an 85% increase in sewer and 45 in water. I think it was.
That was because we had built the way, we were in the process of
Yeah.
going to
wastewater.
build the wastewater treatment.
And so that's kind of what riled troops, got everybody up in arms, and we were like, what the hell's going on? And then that's when I came in, heard my.
But that was a proposed 85% increase, you're saying?
Yeah, like,
Okay.
how do we get to 85% increase? When it's
Gotcha.
already, I mean, I paid for 1 month what I paid for 3 months in Coon Rapids roughly, is what I thought, or how I felt, and then obviously I was uneducated in how those plants work and how they're different. But I already knew the answer, but I had to ask it for the record, just because that's what happens if you don't increase it, because that's part of the problem with, I think even at the county level, what we're seeing too is and that's the fine line you play where we're not gonna increase taxes, we're heroes, and then you're gone now, and everybody's like, taxes are going up 28%, what the hell's going on? So that's why I asked that question, just for the record. So people understand what happens if we don't increase it, sucks. At some point, it's gotta be paid for.
And we're trying to cash flow everything that we can of capital improvements. There's a couple years that we just can't do it in water and sewer, so then we have to sell a bond. But then what happens is you have to then put in those bond payments and fund those bond payments. So a big one there is the Highway 47 project. We are not gonna be able to cash flow that project.
Really?
I
Other-
didn't know that.
Do we cut 20% out of it?
Other questions or comments or?
Can I just understand where it says monthly billing? I just want to make sure I understand this right. So if a person or a household uses 3,000 gallons of water, currently their bill would be 78.89. And the proposed amount for 2026, it would be 88.96. And then the following year, it would be 104.65.
Yes.
Am I reading that right?
Yes. But know that, they vary.
Oh, yeah, every month they change a little bit. I don't even know, like, does the average household use 3,000 gallons, or what is the average?
I think,
Right, 2 or 3.
yeah, I would
Unless you got
say,
a
but
pool or something
I mean,
crazy.
there are some that, you know, in the summertime, they water a lot, you know, so, but I would say roughly, yeah, 3 to maybe 5,000 would be a kind of a good average, but you're talking, I always hate to say that, cause, you know, I go back to how often do you shower, how often do you wash your clothes, how, you know, do you leave the water running when you're brushing your teeth? You know, people don't understand that little things can run a lot of water through their system. Yep, so,
My bill's usually anywhere between 100 to 100. So it's close to five.
and how many people are in the household, you know, I mean, just. So,
Put it out there.
Is that what you said, 125 about?
Well, it's 1 to 120.
That's sewer and water or just
That's
water?
everything. Yeah.
Okay.
Everything.
And then storm. No,
Don't do that.
So do we, if, okay, just throwing this out there, if the building behind Subway had been approved and it was 120 units, how would that affect these numbers?
we would have gotten that usage in revenues. So we would have gotten water and sewer. We would have also gotten a whack and sack from that apartment building. Kate, do you remember what that was gonna be on that, the whack and sack on that building?
Almost the middle.
Mayor and council, yeah, it was almost a mill, but that included all cash fees, so. 700,000-800,000, I think was just whack and sack.
And so would that change the percentages that these rates would be going up for everyone
Yes,
in a big way? Like,
yes. And we had that,
I remember we talked about it once, I just don't remember.
it was a work session and I had laid it out that, you know, if they use this is what, you know, this is what I estimated the rates to go to. If you don't do the apartment building, this is what
I do remember that, I just didn't remember the percentage.
because that would have been a lot of water coming that they would have been using. Yes.
Is it tied to the number of units or the amount of gallons people are
The
using, or
more
both?
used, the more
Just
money
more
they
both.
create revenue, which is actually a good thing when more water is used as far as paying for things.
You know, and 120 units there, versus like building out a property, like Kate has said, building out a development of 120 houses, that's gonna take you years, where this would have been an influx of 120 basically right now. But
With injection.
But just keep in mind, I mean, I totally acknowledge there's a net gain on sewer and water, but there's also added expense on the sewer and water. It's not all, the whole thing is not a net gain. When you're processing more water, when you're using more water, you're paying more electricity, you're paying more blah, blah, blah. So it is a gain. I definitely acknowledge that, but it's not all a net gain. So. Any other questions, sewer, water, Sarah?
I got a question, Paul, without burying the lead, 800,000 for media, why? Why, if we didn't have that, I guess, why, what do they do with the $800,000? And it was 60, now it's 800,000.
replacing that media,
Oh, yeah, Mayor and Council, so there are a few things, we've taken a deep dive, Parrish and I have really, we've gone out and got estimates on some of this stuff. I can't tell you why it wasn't done earlier. I can only tell you that we've done it now. We had no idea that it was going to be radioactive material that we're gonna have to store somewhere special.
Mhm.
We pull radium out of the water and that makes it radioactive. We didn't, again, I can't tell you why it was done earlier, but I can tell you why we did it now. And we're trying to get you honest costs of everything, so we can give you these accurate numbers.
So this is sent to another state and shoved in a cavern somewhere and it stays there forever.
Cheyenne Mountain. It's a possibility.
And if we didn't have this $800,000 burden hanging over our head, where would all this be, Darcy? I mean, I know we
that
still have to
would-
make improvements and there's upgrades.
yeah,
and-
I mean, that's one cost. They did a deep dive into when do I don't know, your bulbs in the wastewater treatment plant.
And the
How-
membranes and stuff like that.
When does this need to be replaced in there? That stuff doesn't last forever. Try and get an estimate of, you know, what are we going to have to maintain
This is
over
the
the
kind of
next?
education that I wanted to expose to the public, whether they come here or not, whether they watch it or not, whether they read it or hear it or not. You know, that's a big deal, 800,000, and it's a pollutant for one thing, and it gets buried in the cavern somewhere. And it was, back in the days, it was 80 grand to get rid of it, so.
Well, another thing that was thrown out was, you know, we all talk about these chlorides,
Yes.
okay? Well, one of the things they talked about was, do we have to do a remodel of our water treatment plant at some point? Or that's when we came up with the idea of, or they came up with the idea of, see if we can do the softener replacement program to help us with those chloride levels, to push that up. Maybe that will solve our problem at $100,000 a year, right? Versus a remodel of the water treatment plant, but the state could come up and tell us that we would have to, because to lower the chlorides.
Yeah. And
So we're
also,
trying to do that. We're trying to find a different way of doing that.
on the plus side too, wasn't it 4 years ago, we spent $600,000 on water meters over a period of time, and we replaced every one at the city's, not the city's expense, but with our tax dollars, we made improvements to help it be a more efficient department.
Well, and
So
that's
there's a
another thing
plus out there
that
to-
he looked at, yes, that's given us much better meter data.
Right.
You know, it solved a lot of our issues that when somebody comes in, that particular program, they can come in and they say, wow, I didn't use that, and I can pull up that and say, you had a bad day here, or you used a lot of water here, and
When you're
then they'll
gone
kind of
during
look
winter,
and they'll go, oh, yeah, that happened.
Or Schnucks was gone for the winter and the toilet was running the whole time they were gone.
Yeah. So.
So,
But,
yeah,
and
there's-
that's another thing, those meters aren't gonna last forever, so Parrish looked in, and Paul looked into that,
Yeah.
of when do those need to replace, and how can we do that and fund it? Cause when we did that, we did a lease purchase, so there was a interest cost to that.
Yeah.
So we're trying, that's a big thing, is we're trying to keep from paying on top of it an interest cost. That's why we're trying to cash flow everything.
Mm.
You know, and I know somebody once said, well, I don't know if it was maybe this building or whatever, are you planning for replacement of the building right now? Yeah, it was this building. And I said, well, we're not, because the people are paying currently for this building. Should we really be charging them for the second building at the same time? You know, when we get done paying, let's start figuring out, putting that money away. Maybe, hopefully we don't have to build another city hall for 100 years or whatever, but start putting that money, and that's where we started the building fund too, was, okay, police public works building is how old? There's gonna have to be a roof replaced, or there's gonna have to be, whatever else replaced at that building. Let's start preparing kind of for it and having some money for that, so it isn't a big shot. So.
All right, thank you. That's all I have, man.
You guys are done, right?
Yeah.
I don't have really anything either. I mean, it is what it is. Mike, you want your 1 minute?
I ain't gonna lie, it's gonna be more than a minute. All right,
give you a
Mike
minute and a
Roger, just so everybody knows, I am the president of the EDA. One question I have for you, Darcy, how many new homes would help get us out of this ugly situation we're in? If we brought new homes development into this town? It's kind of an offbeat question.
I mean, where on water and sewer do we have to build a bunch of new homes?
Well, we had 120
So-
across the road.
So, I mean, it's if you we could plop down tomorrow or next year, 120 new homes.
Yeah, that's not gonna happen. I worked for one of the biggest developers in the country, and when we did that Amazon and Shakopee, that was amazing. There was, I think, every trade in the state was there, plus out of state. All right, anyways, we talk about 16%, well, it's actually a little bit more, just city taxes. I just read an article from the Anoka County. And it comes from the federal level that changed everything with SNAP benefits. Now they have to apply twice a year. They have to double their staff. Who's going to pay for that? Every one of us. What I'm saying, folks, and I know you hate me saying this, Mark, we have to think outside the box and start creating revenue. Because I've been sitting over here with Sarah and Kevin and Joe and the rest of the staff here for years. These guys cut every penny. I mean, if you ask Paul about my road, I've been bugging him for how long about it. And it's not that I think his crew does a fabulous job. There's no doubt about it. But you can't keep putting lipstick on a pig and think it's beautiful. We have to create revenue in this town. There was talk at one time that we could have had a city-owned dispensary. I just read an article on that. It was amazing. The liquor industry is so far behind right now in this state to the THC industry, to the point where the liquor industry is worried. I don't know why we didn't put a city-owned dispensary in this town. Create revenue, for crying out loud. It's not that hard. You can only squeeze so much blood out of a turnip before the turnip's dry. We're dry right now. We have, whether you like it or not, we have to develop in this town, period. Whether we like it or not. Because you know what? 2 years from now, you're going to have the same conversation. Another year after that, same conversation. How do you tell our fine fire department, our police department, you can't give them 3%? That doesn't even cover the cost of living, for crying out loud. We're not going to get good people in this town unless we get creative. That's your job. We got land in Isani, sell it. Sell that land. We got the land where the old ponds were. What are we doing with that? It's just sitting there. Let's do something with it. Solar garden to power this place? There's your cut, Mark. Hey, what's wrong with electric cars? They're just running around in the city. We could run it off the solar garden. Electric work trucks could run it off the solar garden. Those are things you have to start looking at. Not looking at nitpicking the guns they use, whatever. Because I would never, ever put any citizen in this town's safety at jeopardy by making these guys cut their budget. By the way, I run about 4,000 gallons a month, and it's just me and my wife. That's probably the average in the city. And I shower probably half my time at the Y when I'm done working out. So yeah, we're going to get slapped pretty good, not just by city taxes, but by county taxes. And once again, I don't have a water softener, so I'm going to get penalized because I don't have a water softener. That's all I got to say.
Thank you, Mike.
Thanks.
Further discussion, anyone? I think I'm hearing that you got the consensus to go ahead as
So
presented.
just to know, a note, the rate, the sewer rate or water and sewer rates would be on the fee schedule that will come out. Is it November? And there's 2 readings on it. It's an ordinance. So there's 2 readings on it and then the 30-day publishing, and then it would go into effect. There again, you know, we'll try and get the information out to people. You know,
So this, if we got this in the September newsletter and we're bringing people to the city council meeting for this, are we not ready really with the sewer and water, you're saying? I don't follow you.
no,
Okay.
I mean, this is what
Yeah.
we're proposing to put on the fee schedule.
Yeah.
And so we can start telling people,
Okay.
this is, you guys have said, yes, go move forward with this. And we're gonna do that. Another thing that we do need to do is we need to let Oak Grove know, because Oak Grove purchases water from us for that development. And so we need to let them know that these are our new rates, so that they can do their process of charging, upping their rates also.
Can I ask a question?
Go
Mayor?
ahead, go right ahead.
Can we also then encourage and graciously ask the departments involved to prepare a presentation? Doesn't have to be elaborate, but basically what you shared with us as far as the media portion of it. And so things like that, and if you have to share a transcript of it with the Oak Grove people, or actually, if you gotta go to Oak Grove, Paul, and tell them, I'm not trying to throw you into the lion's den, but I mean, if we're gonna, and we didn't really have a consensus, just because I brought it up doesn't mean we gotta do it, but if we're gonna have an agenda item open where we can do a presentation, again, education is the key. And why, the what and the why we're doing this stuff. And, so we have no recourse to some of these areas, so that's all I got.
I agree. I mean, telling most of the department heads right here, you want me to go along and meet with you or want to go along to Oak Grove and have a discussion with them? I'm happy to do it. No problems with that. So that helps. That's all. I think we got, anybody opposed to the sewer and water as proposed? I think you got your go on that. So-
Okay, that's how we'll move forward. I've gotten my direction that I needed to make. Thank you.
Thank you. Do I adjourn now, Kate, and then we do the safety stuff or how does it work?
Yes, Mayor and Council, what we'll do is we'll adjourn and then we'll have the public leave and then we'll run through some emergency management with Todd.
So I don't need a motion here. We're gonna close the work session on Monday, July 28th at 7:34 PM.
Not this one.
Thanks, guys.